Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share with you a story. At first glance, it may seem simple, perhaps even ordinary. But if we look deeper, we will find a powerful reminder about kindness, compassion, and the way even the smallest act of generosity can transform a life. It begins on a noisy street in a big city. Picture the scene. Traffic rushing by, people hurrying home from work, neon signs flickering above shops and cafes. The evening air is heavy, full of the sounds of horns, conversations, and footsteps. In the middle of this restless crowd, there was a young woman. She was walking quickly, her steps hurried, her heels tapping against the concrete. In her hand, she carried a worn-out handbag. Inside it was a small collection of tips she had earned after a long and exhausting shift. She worked as a waitress. Her days were long, her pay was little, but she carried on with determination. Her body was tired, but her heart was full of hope. Every coin she saved, every dollar she tucked away, was meant for something bigger, her dream of going to college. She wanted to break free from endless side jobs, from the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. She dreamed of education, of opportunity, of a better life. As she hurried down that street, something caught her eye. Near the corner, by an old and crumbling building, sat a man. He wasn't standing proudly. He wasn't walking with purpose. He was sitting directly on the cold, hard pavement, his back leaning against the wall. His clothes were worn, patched, and dusty. His face was marked by exhaustion, and his eyes, deep, thoughtful, almost distant, spoke of struggles untold. People passed him constantly, but almost no one seemed to notice. Some passers-by looked away quickly, pretending not to see. Others quickened their pace, eager to escape the uncomfortable sight. A few even frowned with irritation, as though his very presence was offensive. But this young woman, she stopped. Something inside her stirred, an emotion she could not ignore. It was a wave of compassion, of empathy, of human connection. For a moment, she forgot about her own problems, her own tiredness, her own worries about money. All she saw was another person, someone who might be hungry, cold, and alone. She opened her wallet. Inside were only a few bills, her last money until the next paycheck. She hesitated. Her thoughts battled within her. If I give this away, tomorrow will be harder. What will I eat? How will I manage? But then another thought came. What if this man hasn't eaten all day? What if this small amount means survival for him? Her compassion won. She knelt down, lowering herself so she could look him in the eye. And with quiet sincerity, she handed him the money. She did not wait for thanks. She did not expect recognition. Her gesture was simple, humble, and real. That night, she walked home with an empty wallet, but with a heart that felt unexpectedly light. She didn't know what would happen next. She only knew she had done the right thing. And sometimes that is enough. What she could not possibly have imagined was who that man really was. You see, he wasn't just someone down on his luck. In fact, he was a millionaire. For 6 hours that day, he had chosen to sit on the street, dressed in rags, pretending to be homeless. It was an experiment, a test of humanity. He wanted to see if true kindness still existed in the world. He wanted to know if, beneath the rush of modern life, people still had the heart to stop and help. Hundreds of people passed by. Some stared, some frowned, but none stopped. None except her. The very next day, after finishing another shift, she walked down the same street. To her astonishment, she saw him again. But this time he looked completely different. Gone were the torn clothes. Now he wore a tailored suit, polished shoes, and his beard was neatly trimmed. He no longer looked invisible. He radiated confidence and authority. The young woman froze. Was it really the same man? He walked up to her, his steps firm, his gaze kind. In his hand was an envelope. He handed it to her without hesitation. She opened it and gasped. Inside was $20,000. Her first reaction was disbelief. This must be a mistake, she thought. But he explained. He told her who he really was and what he had been doing on the street. And then he said something that she would remember for the rest of her life. Her act of compassion was the only genuine gesture of kindness he had witnessed during the entire experiment. Out of everyone, she alone had reached out. Tears filled her eyes. She confessed her situation to him, that she worked long hours as a waitress, that she was saving every bit she could for college, that her dream was to create a better future for herself. At that moment, she realized something extraordinary. Kindness does come back, sometimes not immediately, and sometimes in ways more surprising than we could ever imagine. but it returns often multiplied. From that day forward, her life changed. The cold sidewalk where she had once met a man she thought was a beggar became a symbol. For her, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one shaped by hope, opportunity, and proof that one single act of selflessness can open doors she never even dreamed existed. Now, let us pause here and reflect. What does this story teach us? First, it reminds us that kindness is never wasted. We often think that small gestures don't matter, that one smile, one word, or one act of generosity won't change anything. But in reality, those small moments are what hold humanity together. The waitress had no idea her choice would lead to such a reward. She acted out of pure compassion, not expecting anything in return. And yet, her life was transformed. Second, it challenges us to ask ourselves, how often do we pass by people in need without noticing? How often do we look away, out of discomfort or perhaps fear? This story invites us to slow down, to open our hearts, and to recognize the dignity in every human being. Third, it shows us the ripple effect of kindness. Her generosity not only changed her own life, but also left a lasting impression on the millionaire. Proved to him that goodness still exists. And now, as we share this story, perhaps it will inspire someone else, maybe even you, to act with compassion the next time the opportunity arises. So, my dear friends, remember this. We never truly know the impact of our actions. A coin given, a kind word spoken, a hand extended. It may seem small, but to someone else it could mean the world. And sometimes, as in this story, it can come back to us in the most unexpected ways. The young woman thought she was giving away her last bit of security. Instead, she received a future. She thought she was helping someone less fortunate. Instead, she discovered that her kindness was rare, precious, and life-changing. This story is not just about money. It is about the value of compassion, the courage to act when no one else does, and the reminder that our choices matter. So the next time you are faced with a moment where kindness is possible, remember her. Remember the young woman who, though tired and poor, chose generosity over fear. And remember that sometimes, the smallest acts of compassion can lead to the greatest transformations. And with that, I leave you with this thought. Kindness is the one investment that always returns more than it costs. It may not come back tomorrow or the next day, but it will come back. Often when you least expect it, and often in ways far greater than you can imagine. Thank you.